Well, hello, and welcome to Work Well with Stephanie Wolfe, brought to you by the Whole Food Health Coach, LLC, where we make your goals our goals, and you're never alone on your wellness journey. Experience the information, inspiration, and collaboration of our Coach in Your Corner partnership. My name is Stephanie Wolfe. I'm a national board-certified health and wellness coach, proud owner of the Whole Food Health Coach now in its 9th year, and 5-time winner of Best of Gwinnett Award in endocrinology, diabetes, and metabolism practices. Rachel, Sherry, and I invite you to visit WholeFoodHealthCoach.com to set up your 60-minute healthy living assessment. Work Well is dedicated to your personal and professional health and wellness. I offer you examples from my own life, health, marriage, family, and business. I share my research, my opinion, and my faith, designed to bring you compelling content, engaging challenges, and practical body, soul, and spirit support on your wellness journey. Work Well comes to you from my personal desire to live long and strong with passion and purpose, die of old age, and help others to do the same. Now, from living rooms to boardrooms here on Gwinnett Business RadioX, you're listening to Work Well with Stephanie Wolfe. All right, let's do this. I always like to start with a funny story, and today I have blonde jokes, and I have these lovely blonde friends in our studio with me today, so I already apologize to them and any other blonde who's out there. I'm not a natural-born blonde, but I love this story. I thought it was funny. So it's called The Blonde Painter. A blonde who's down on her luck is walking through a luxurious neighborhood looking for odd jobs to do when she approaches a large house. She goes up to the house, rings the doorbell, and the owner comes to the door. He asks the lady what she's there and what she wants, and the blonde tells him of her situation and that she's down on her luck and just wants to know if he has any odd jobs that she could do for him. The man thinks about it for a second, and then he remembers that he's been wanting to paint the porch lately, so he had some paint on hand, and he said, "Well, do you paint?" She said, "Sure, I can paint." "Well, I've been wanting to get my porch painted, so how much do you charge?" And the man asked her, and she said, "I don't know, say $50. "Sounds good. Go ahead and get started." He closed the door and walks back inside to get back to work. His wife asks him, "Who was at the door?" He tells her that it was the blonde and her situation, and he told his wife that the blonde agreed to paint the porch for $50. Astonished, the wife said, "Wow, $50, that's awesome. So, but that porch goes the full length of our house and then some. It will be at least a few hours' job. You really should pay her more." But that's all she asked that she wanted. And anyway, she's a dumb blonde. 10 minutes later, they got a knock on the door, and the man answers the door, and the blonde stands there saying, "All done." With a surprised look on his face. "I can't believe it. You're already done painting the entire porch?" "Yes, and by the way, it's not a porch. It's a Ferrari." Oh. All right. I know, right? I was following a really pretty Porsche on the way over, thinking about this. Okay, it must be the right joke for today. I'm so excited today because every time I get to come into the studio and do my podcast, I always have a topic in mind and the month's topic and things like that. And as you know, I want to inspire people and provide information, but I always ask you to challenge yourself with what you hear and change something, improve something, let go of something, pick up something, start something, or restart something. There's a lot of rekindling going on in my life right now, I'm just going to say. And this whole year has been pretty exciting. I've just finished my first full year of podcasts, and I'm very excited about that. So October, this month, is all about relationships. And last week, we were with my husband, the pastor, Pastor Jack Wolfe, for Pastoral Perspective. In the first part of the month, we did a Daddy's Girls theme with fatherhood. And today, I have with me three lovely leading ladies, longtime friends, ministry partners, and I'm so excited to have them here. So I want each of them to take a minute, introduce yourself, and just your first name, just so they get your voice, so they know who's talking different times. That helps when you're not on video, you're on podcast. And a little bit about your family and maybe what you do or how you know me or just anything that comes to mind. If you forget something and a little bit later, I'll ask you again. So let's just give it a start, and I'm going to ask Jenn Sexton to get us started.
All right. Thanks, Stephanie. I'm Jenn, and I'm happy to be here with this group of ladies today. Many of them have just really mentored me and done things throughout my life that really got me to where I am. I think most notably, I like to talk about my work a lot of times. I am the Vice President of Services, and I really don't think I would be here or be at this place in my life without mentoring women, without Stephanie, without Theta, without the programs that we went through. And, I could tell a short story, but I've got a challenging personality. A lot of times people say I'm blunt, I'm direct, and things like that. And there's so much that I got from the Mentoring Women program that really just helped me become a totally different person. And I just really thank you for that. So I'm happy to be here and support you at any time. So that's my short story.
Oh, I love you so much. And you're in Savannah, Georgia now, so not so close. So we don't get to see each other too much, but we text on a regular basis and FaceTime every now and then. And it's been an interesting year for both of us, too.
Interesting.
All right. How about you, Belinda Hiti?
Hi, Stephanie. My name's Belinda Hiti, and I am a wife and a mom and a grandmother. I am mom to 16, 9 to 18-year-olds, in addition to my children. And I run Eagle Rock Boys Ranch. I also am the director of Trafficking Hope in Gadsden, Alabama. And so much of the things I learned about leadership, about basically just time management. I know that's not definitely that small compared to some of the spiritual things that I learned from Stephanie and Leading Ladies, but time management was just something I struggled with. And you had me by my first ever daytimer. I still have it. It was huge. I barely had a cell phone at the time because we just hadn't really had them before. But it certainly wasn't the smartphone that we have now where everything's in my phone. But I still have it. It was, about 5.5 by 7. And I took it everywhere. And you really led me that. And it changed my life as far as being able, I would never be able to run a ranch, 2 stores, plus do a ministry in a rather large church if I had not learned all that from you, organization and time management. So thank you for that. And many, many more things that you taught me during our time here.
Well, it's exciting to have you, Belinda, all the way from Alabama. So you drove in just today. Yeah. And Gadsden area, but specifically Rainbow City.
Yes.
Thank you for driving all that way to be with us today. It's exciting. Theta Shank.
Yes.
Tell us all about you and what you're doing.
Yeah. So my name is Theta, which, what is it? Everybody says, what is it? It's a Greek letter, and it's an unknown angle. That was my dad's idea. He was an engineer. So there it is. There's the name. I'm married 45 years this year to Terry Shank, who is amazing. He's all into stargazing now, so that's a new chapter in our lives. We've got 3 kids. Hey, Stephanie, what about this? My oldest is married to your youngest.
Yes.
And so we're related, which is such a treat.
That's our responsibility. We did that.
I know. We set them
Chat
up.
Nanny, you're welcome.
We set them up.
Cleaning carpet.
We did.
You never know what discussion comes from the moms that are cleaning the church carpet.
So not all of my kids are married. Each of our 3 kids have 2 grands, and it is a grand season for us. I want to circle back to Leading Ladies at the moment. I'm going to try not to tear up because I'm already feeling that way at this table. I didn't know I was the leader, and you called it out. And you gave me the faith and the encouragement to step beyond where I was, to go do things that I never would have done. And the list is long now. How many years ago, Stephanie, did it launch? Oh, look, we bought tissues.
2000.
This is a good man. Thank you very much. 2000. So if it hadn't been, I wouldn't have helped pioneer a ministry for the Cathy family that owns Chick-fil-A called WindShape. I wouldn't have ran the hospitality for that ministry, had a team of 20, 25 people, and then move on into marriage crisis ministry. So I really do believe that you called out the leader in me to be able to do great things for the kingdom. And that is the truth.
Wow.
That is the truth.
Well, I really don't know that I can say thank you enough for that compliment, because that's
truth.
amazing how many years of ministry at WinShape, and we just went to celebrate with you retirement. I don't
20
like to
years,
use the
yeah.
word retirement, but retiring from that office and that space. So I really appreciate that, and it was great to watch you and Terry be celebrated.
Thank
I'm
you.
so glad we got to go and see all of that. So
Thank you.
well, thank you all. I know one of the things that I love about the way that God does things is that I would not have thought of all those things either. People say, well, who was your mentor? And I'm like, I didn't have a mentor, and that's why I knew how important it was. I was like, you became a mentor because you knew people needed a mentor, and specifically women, because I'm called to women. I don't mentor men. But I'm grateful that God, over the years, so many groups. I was going through the pictures and just looking at all of the different groups, and Theta was one of the first to launch out into a mentoring of her own group and inviting her own group, and Jenn was a part of that. I wanted to mentor everyone myself. It's like, oh, I love this person. Oh, I love that person. But that's not how the kingdom grows, and that's not how people grow either. So we've never not been in each other's lives. I think some maybe more distant here or there, but we definitely, of course, Theta and I have been in each other's lives and in each other's business, just because we've got family,
We're family.
kids, and we love our Houston family. So we're super excited about that. Well, I know you guys are here for a specific reason, as far as not just the podcast, but also this weekend. So I'd love to hear your, why did you travel all this way to come to this reunion event coming up? And let's just go back around again the way we were, but if you've got something to say, then you can jump in.
Okay. I think for me right now, and we mentioned a little bit, I've had somewhat of a challenging year, and Stephanie's been a big part of my life for a long time. Can't even tell all those stories. But most recently, breast cancer. Stephanie's been through that journey. She helped me tremendously through that journey. So just really getting back to her and being around her and getting mentored in that way, and her helping me through that. But not only through everything, she was in the room when when my son was born. She helped me with so many different things. So not only her, but just to see her work throughout everyone else, and just, how it went to Theta and me and all the people that we've touched over, through this group and because of you and because of this word and this program. It's just such a big part of my life and touched me so much. So to come back and just kind of cherish that time with everyone and see everybody in person and just hear about what God's done in everyone's lives. And, I love that fellowship, and it's something I've never forgotten. I've never had. All my friends come from this group, everybody in my life that's been impactful. So it's just been, I wanted to see everybody.
Awesome.
See you, hear the word.
As God brings people into your life, there are just so many people impact our life and leave an indelible mark. And you left that mark on my life, Stephanie. God called us there. I've always been a leader, Theta. Takeover spirit is what my husband calls it. I have TOS. And I learned that that's because wherever there's a leadership void, I can't stand it. I will get in and take over leadership, which is not a bad thing. But I remember it was a wonderful time and a difficult time. I remember crying out to God on some days because I felt somewhat like I had been benched. Because for the first time, I stayed at home and I, did just the mom thing, which I'm forever grateful for. And, God spoke to me during that time, and, we cry out to God and say, God, why have you benched me? I'm busy, I'm doing lots of stuff, but it was so different from what I had done. And God said it was time for my husband to shine. And it was just a time in our marriage for his growth to be accelerated and him to move in to the position in our marriage that he needed to be. He's an awesome, awesome man. And you encouraged me. And that year that I did Leading Ladies, and you mentored me for the year. It set a foundation, because I have that in my heart for young women. I've had it for a long time, but you modeled for me how to do that. And so to say I took that away, and definitely that became a part of my life. And I've done it, been able to do that over and over and over. And I never do that. I don't think of you. And one thing oftentimes I work with traumatized kids, and I say it all the times. It's a Stephanie-ism, if that's what you can call it. But I say to them all the time, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. And, just to even mentor these children in a different way, to say some of the things, to encourage them, to let them know that, you have a bright future. You can't change what's back here, but you can change everything going forward. So you've just left a mark on my life, and I wouldn't miss it.
I'm so glad you made the journey, and I appreciate your comments, obviously. It's super sweet.
We're the same age, and don't you go there. You just stop it. We're the same age.
I always have to tease her because she's just a few months older.
Just a few months older
So I
than
always
you
say,
are,
"You're
but
old."
I always get there a smidge ahead of you and let me know it.
Yeah, you tell me how it feels.
I know. The thing that I found intriguing was that you were leading me, but we were the same age. And to watch you write and develop each lesson with this first group, I really love being a part of the first group. I thought, she can do this. She is a month ahead of us. You were writing as we went for this program, and the whole package of watching you do something, and you're the same age as me, and I felt like that was a mountain I could never accomplish or climb or anything like that. That's what wooed me to begin to try and do my own group. Intriguing, isn't it? That's really what it was. And the very first book was Celebration of Discipline by Richard Foster, and I was hooked. I love that book. I still love that book. And you introduced me to that book, and that was the first book of the whole thing, and it's still a foundational book for me now. And those two things.
Wow.
Those two things are what motivated me.
Well, a part of the actual process, let's talk about the process a little bit, because a part of the process, and it's unique because the way I used to do it is much different than the way I do it these days or over the last 10 years. But when I first did it, I was like writing the lesson, like they just said. It was getting approved by John Maxwell and the whole Enjoy staff, and then I would teach it to the group. And so it was kind of a both and during that time. And I had really asked the Lord, like, what are the 12 topics? Because it's a 12-month resource and it's a 12-month commitment, basically, that each of you made. And it was a once-a-month gathering of the group, as well as a one-time one-on-one with me for anybody who wanted that extra time. So choosing the women that I would take under my wing that year, even before the choices were made, really asking the Lord what topics, 12 topics. And I really felt like God did give me the answer to that. And I loved writing it because it's really just the Word of God. I love the Word. And so it's full of, Scripture and the mandates of all of us, men, women, young, old, no matter what our backgrounds, there's so much that we each have to give. And so that program actually it's a little bit different than discipleship, because discipleship is mostly education, which is all good, information, and some walking with. But the way that the Lord really unpacked the meaning of mentoring to me was something I didn't even know until I started writing it, really. And then just continued to write. But one of the things is the being chosen part. After that, it's invitation. So we don't, even though we had a big church and it was kind of hard to just say, okay, well, I've got space for like 8 people, I think or maybe even
think I
less
had
at
10,
that first
the
and
first
stuff.
group.
And then when yes. So, somewhere between the 8 and the 10 mark. And so you just ask the Lord who, he would put on your heart for that year. And of course, make the invitation, and then they get to choose whether it fits their lifestyle or their time commitment, because it is a commitment. There are books to read. The books are kind of icing on the cake, I always say, but it's nice because between each month's session that we would get together, we'd be reading about that book. Then we'd start off with, hey, what did God say to you through Richard Foster? And I still use that excerpts of that. It's not a book that I actually use, but during one of the months, I can't remember which one, we do talk about priorities and values, and that one's in there. And so I do use all 6 of them, and it's an awesome book. So if you're listening and you haven't gotten that book yet, then grab one and read it. So, all right, so that process. So what do you remember about the actual process?
The selection process?
Or any part of the program, I guess, as far as, the monthly thing, the, meetings, the books, anything that kind of comes to mind. I know it's been a minute for some of you. 20 years.
I do remember. I mean, this is a funny thing, and I don't even know if I should share it. But I remember, like you said, when I first found out, I was like, "Well, I'm not in Stephanie's group. Why am I not in Stephanie's group?" And Theta hadn't. I probably shared this with you before, but it was your first time, and that was amazing. I think it was much more impactful that it was you that was chosen to lead, and that group of women that we had. I mean, Stephanie's done many other things in my life, but you don't always know who God is going to speak to you through. Yeah. And I just think it was awesome. So I think sometimes people's feelings could get hurt through that selection process, but in the end, it's the right thing, and it's what God wanted. So.
And to speak to that, Stephanie really did want you. She goes, I don't know if I can let her be in your group or not. So you're right. It's
like so funny.
But
I got it.
Thank you.
So
well, it was also the other women that were there. I remember Sarah and just so many, the relationship that we had with each other. And it was probably the first time that I had really been with a group of ministry. Ours was either ministry, pastors' wives or pastors. And so just being able to bounce off, the things that are, peculiar to being in ministry and being a pastor's wife. So that was very impactful for me. And, I still stay in touch with several of them. So I'm excited to see who's there, because it's like I noticed where you made it, where we couldn't see it. I thought it's a surprise.
Who's coming?
She's not going to tell us, but just, it growing and learning. I love to learn. I love to learn things I don't know. And when you were very practical, like we would talk about things and pray for each other and read books and discuss, but it was like, okay, now we call them in my world today next steps. There's always a next step, no matter how long you've walked with God or wherever you are in your life or your marriage. What's your I've been married 33 years. What's our next step in our marriage? Because if we're not growing, we're dying or stagnating or whatever. So I loved him. I couldn't wait for it to be there. And, just couldn't wait to be together. And then our time at the end, it was great.
I love the celebrations at the end where those that had just quote unquote like graduated, and then the new ones coming in would get to meet you guys, and it was just, I don't know, maybe like a not college, but like a Bible, college almost for your heart, because it really was more of a molding and shaping of our inner beauty. That's really what my heart has been. That's why I kind of started these things to begin with. But
okay. What you showed us in that first group was a safe place to try and be who God had created us to be, that you would woo us toward what you were seeing in us and call us out. And that was what I hoped to pass on to the groups I led, that people could try if they were feeling that God was wooing them toward one direction, they would try that, or if they was trying to do something else. And there was no condemnation in the room. It was just a safe place to try to be who God created us to be. In that environment that you provided, that was my heart to provide for the groups that I led as well.
And I think that ripple effect is something that is so beautiful, because I do think it's not just that year. I mean, my hope is that it's not always just that year, which is why we're doing some of the things that we're doing right now. So the exciting thing I think about when I would watch your growth, and you know this, Theta, as leading in certain areas too, and mentoring, and certainly Jenn and Belinda as well, but just being able to watch the lives of women growing in who they are, finding that strength and that confidence that comes from God. And it's never about me, Stephanie. It's never about you, Belinda. You know, it's always about his ability to use us and being available. And he needs more available women and men, especially these days. And so I think in my rekindling of some of these things and the things that God has spoken to me recently, and kind of bringing it all back again, is that the need isn't, diminished. The need is greater almost. And so I hope to rekindle, the flame in all of us, not just me. So some of the things that God has put on my heart for this whole weekend, whether it's the fireside chat, and hopefully it's not going to rain on us, but we've got some things going on the inside too. But I think that we learn better in a group. We learn better from each other. It's not just, that's why with the Mentoring Women, I tried to do the group atmosphere. I bring the lesson and share the stories and things, and then discussion. And we learn probably more from the discussion, actually, from the actual lesson, because we're unpacking the truths that are there. And we're all seeing it from something a little different as far as the perspective of the word, or, my stories aren't your stories. So then you'd share your stories. And it just became something really beautiful. And then what I did love and have loved all these years, I had a couple years, obviously, where I didn't do it. I think from 2016 was the last one, and then 2017, 18, 19, lots going on in my world too, and then COVID and all that fun stuff sometimes too. I did manage to do one whole group through 2020. And but the exciting thing about, for me, again, is seeing the growth. And that's why I want to hear what's going on in your world. I want to hear what you're doing now. I want, as I invited the women to come back for this weekend, and I could only do a small, again, it's kind of small group based on all the hundreds. So we do hope to do it again. So I don't want anybody to feel like they weren't, invited for any reason other than the fact it's at my house this time. And so I can only do so much. But I do believe that I want to just hear what's going on in your world, and that's exciting to me to hear that.
Well, I thought of a few things while you guys were talking, and one of them was when I was a little girl, I really wanted to be a leader. And I would find myself trying to create clubs and all these things, but really no one would ever come except my cousin. God bless her.
God bless her.
I was like, why doesn't anyone want to follow me? I know what should be done here, And so I really grew up, a lot of that kind of, like I said, outspoken, or, people would say I was boisterous, and, probably other words that I can't use on here that they say to women and girls that want to be leaders when they're young. My grandfather was very well known for telling me that children should be seen and not heard, which was, it was a hard thing to kind of go through. And then I remember being in my 20s and just trying to figure out where to go, and just loving the church and loving the family. And so when I was in Theta's group, some of the most impactful things that happened there, and probably the book that there were a lot of books and a lot of memories from the whole thing, but probably the most impactful was the book Personality Plus. And I just learned so much about myself. And I was looking, a reminder of the title is, who do I want to be when I grow up? And I just really relate is, I want to be a leader. I always have, but people weren't following me, or I wasn't a good leader. I didn't know the things, and I'm still on a long journey to be to be a leader. And I don't think you're ever really done, right? But it just was, that book was so impactful. And I remember we were in our group, and you're with all these trusted women, as you mentioned, which I think you need the group of people. You can't just sit there and be on your own. Like, I want to be a leader. You have to have that group of people that want to feed into you and mentor you. And so I remember going into one and reading in the book that kind of said, like, if you go into a group and you don't say anything, but everyone else talks, and no one really seems to notice that you're not talking, you're probably the one that talks too much. So maybe you need to kind of learn how to be quiet. I don't know if anyone else remembers that, but I remember sitting at that leading ladies night and just not talking, and it was killing me. I was, sitting on my hands, and it was so impactful just to hear and learn how much feedback and things that other people have, and that I needed to keep quiet and listen to what other people had to say and let other people speak and sow in and lead. And so I don't know, that was just for me the most impactful thing. And I think it really, even today, just in the role that I'm in and continuing trying to grow and learn and, mentor other people on my team, women, men too, just because it's in the corporate world. But that story was so impactful. And
That's cool.
Yes, that is. I think, that is one of my favorite lessons to teach, and I still sometimes teach it when I'm asked to speak somewhere, just because, and we're choleric sanguine. So if you haven't read Personality Plus, there's another book for you that we'll recommend, and they have them for kids too. But what I loved about that was everybody's got a place and everybody's got a personality, and we are all valuable. We're all useful. So, melancholy is very thoughtful, very introspective. They do tend to be a little more quiet, always thinking through the process and, strategizing more in their head. Whereas, cleric's like, we're doing this and we're doing that. Like, I'm like,
Wait a minute.
Like
Are all three of you clerics here?
When I first,
and I'm on my own over. Okay.
when we first started, I'm like, okay, ladies, this is what we're doing. And, so it's just funny how all that, comes about, because I wasn't raised like that. I mean, my mom was super quiet and, just a feeler. And, I'm more of an expressor, expressive. And, and I'm like that. If there's not a leader, I'm like, okay, somebody tell us what we're doing. Let's make a decision. And, but, again, learning and growing and really allowing the gifts to flow through these women and seeing them grow within that gift. Like Theta used the term calling it out, which I do think in a lot of ways we're all leaders, but with a different personality. So even if we are strategists or we're thinkers, they need more time to process. Sanguines are off doing it already. They're in the car, gone. It's in reverse. Off they go. And, or their, mouth is saying things, and then later they think, maybe that wasn't something I should have said, or the cleric will tell them, you shouldn't have said that. But I think there's a lot of these unique personalities and unique gift mix, and a lot of times we think we're not like that person, so we don't think we're valuable, or we're not as outgoing, or we're not a leader. And I think that, we've all got to move with our gifts. I think a lot of times I was criticized more because of my leadership or my, vision casting, and I'm always writing something, and I'm always, my husband's at home cooking because I'm doing, the weekend kind of event. And he's just awesome about, just stepping in. Like, what did we do? Because we prayed this morning, and I told him, I said, look what God showed me today. And just the ripple effect of that, because, your husbands are allowing you to come away for this weekend, to spend the night, to, be here and be away from them so that you can be a part of this. And so we're a team, and the world is a team, even though none of us here, we don't go to the same church, but we are the same church. Jack shared this message in our last podcast about being the church, and, the church is, big. It's bigger than how many attend under a particular, roof. But I also feel like the thing that drives me is seeing people be on fire for their Jesus. And let me tell you about my Jesus. And not in a passing out track, knocking on doors. I'm sorry if you do that. But I'm just saying, living a life of godliness and character and integrity and responsibility, and being the wives and the mothers and the vice presidents and retirees, or those things. What's next? I mean, you've spent your whole life, Theta, sowing into these marriages and things, and now and next is what I teach my team as well. But I know one of the things that God has brought us all together for is around God's message to me to feed my sheep. And so our whole theme for this reunion, the Leading Ladies reunion, is about, feeding his sheep. And so I definitely am going to feed you well. Not all of it is going to be health coach approved. I'm just saying, because I found things I'm like, oh, I got to have this, and I love that. And Theta jumped in, and Jack's at home cooking, and Rochelle is organizing and putting some things together for us, scripture verses and stuff. So feeding feeding the sheep is something that I enjoy. I love that. They're not my sheep. You're not my sheep. You're his sheep. It says, God's mandate to me was feed my sheep. That was him talking about it. It's not that you're my sheep, but there's a way that I can feed. And so what he was saying to me is, because I have shelves and books and notebooks and lessons and outlines and all these, things that I've started and things that I've written. And it kind of came from my original mandate, my personal mission statement, to live, write, teach about the transforming power of God, challenging myself and others to a higher purpose in Christ. And that's something in 1999, that I wrote. I put it here in my notes just so I'd be able to say it correctly, but it's on my desk and so many other places. And I feel like, sometimes I felt like, okay, is that over? That's gone now. I don't necessarily have, Jack's not a pulpit pastor. We always call him, he preaches here and there and, has this podcast, and we have our adult Bible class or adult Bible community or Epic. He still does a lot of coaching of pastors, and we help, church planters and things like that. But so I haven't had like my own flock, of ladies for a while. So I sent y'all invitations and said, come to my house. I miss you. I need you. This is a relationship that's, it's too big. It's too powerful. And the reason it is because we dug in for a whole year and we got to know each other, and it was valuable. Mm-hmm. It was personable. It was intimate. We were vulnerable. I went through my breast cancer, during my year, one of the years that I did Leading Ladies. And it did keep me going, because there were certain responsibilities and things. I didn't do it because it was obligation, and again, I do know there was, some that's like, why does she think she needs to do that? And it's not that really. It was, I really kind of did need to do that for me. Mm-hmm. I needed to, it's like I needed to still be needed. I still needed to feel strong and healthy and, have a purpose, and tomorrow's going to be, better, and all of those kind of things. And so our goal, or my goal through that was I needed you all. I didn't do it, I hope I did it for you too, but I was certainly doing it for me as well.
That's awesome.
Well, that's when the leaders lead, they're blessed too. And that's the flip side of leading ladies. We're pouring into the lives of the women that God has entrusted us with, but also we learn and we grow, and our kingdom impact expands. And so that's the flip side. We may be leading ladies, but God's leading us in the process, and we get stretched, and that's a good thing.
Yeah.
I think one of the great things, Stephanie, was it's great for people to see us when things are great and things are, everything's going well, and we can, get in front of a group and be inspiring and encouraging and all that. And I love to do that. But I have found, and I think that's what's powerful about your story and others that I know, and God's writing your story, Jen. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And that people need to see you walk through the tough things. They need to see you, sometimes we get gut punched and, we don't know what to say or we don't know what to do. But we get back up, we cry out to our Heavenly Father, we speak the word over ourselves. I cry out to God and He hears me, mm-hmm. and He'll hear you too. And one of my first pastor's wife always used to say, wisdom born of suffering deserves attention. Mm-hmm. And so I honestly think that as we go through life, and we're all going to go through difficult things, those are the times that I've grown the most. Not that we want to go through them or that it's easy, but there's just growth because we cling to God, we cling to the people that, we can link arms and walk together. We can hold each other's arms up when we're so tired, and we all get that way at times. So just being real and vulnerable and not, even when we make mistakes.
Yeah. And we're going to make mistakes, plenty of them.
Absolutely. And I always just tell the boys, I'd like to tell you that I've never yelled at one of them or whatever, but there's 16 teenagers. You'd have to be Mother Teresa or somebody, but not me. But, instantly, like we know when we've overreacted or we've spoken in anger or whatever, but going back and modeling for them and saying, I'm sorry, will you forgive me? I reacted in my emotions and I raised my voice, and that I shouldn't have done that. That was wrong. And so we're modeling for each other how to have relationship, because when I don't care how much you love somebody, you're going to have tough times. But when you come through those tough times, that love is deep and that bond is stronger, and we have long-lasting relationships. Old friends are the best. Not that you guys are old, but
Thank you for that.
Old friends are the best.
Well, we have about 17 leading ladies coming this weekend, so I'm really thrilled. I was able to invite like 35 at this point, and then hopefully in the coming years we'll do more. But one of the things that I love about the Mentoring Women material is how intentional it is, because I do think that there's a need for discipleship and discipline. It's like I'm committing, I'm big on, that's part of my, responsibility and belief. That's, two of my APEST, and my gift mix, my strength finders is all about that. So if I'm going to commit to something, then I'm going to do it. And so I like that aspect of it. And for women, sometimes it is we're a little like, oh, well, I think I'm going to go have tea with a friend. And that's fine, but this is really intentional. It's about showing up. It's about participating. Everybody's got a role, whether it's the photographer or the hospitality person or the bookkeeper, all the different pieces of that somebody had to do. And so that was a part of the whole process, is a part of making sure you're engaged for your own self, but you're engaged for others. You're coming to serve. You're bringing food, or you're doing the devotions this time, or you keeping track of devotions, who's doing them. And so there's certain roles that everybody plays in it as well. And that was one of my favorite things. And then out of that was birth mentoring young women for teenagers and their moms to do together. And that excites me too, because that was it's a totally different, I don't use any of the same books or any of the same lessons. It's totally different just for them and their age group. And that kind of came because as I was, praying, and it's like, oh God, how many more books do we need? How many more conferences do we need to attend? How many more marriage, seminars? And I felt like he said, you start too late. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, get them from the birth, kind of a thing, the canal. But that's kind of where mentoring
babies.
Yeah, so it's like all of that ripple effect, and watching, women's Bible studies and all the other things that God has allowed me to write, which is super fun, because I could write like 12 hours a day and probably not miss a beat. And sometimes I don't eat. I'm like, I got to eat. I'm a coach. I need to tell. All right. So what kind of benefits do you see now that I'm kind of stirring, you're being stirred a little bit as you're coming to this weekend, you're participating. I don't know what you expect I'm going to do. I'm basically going to read from my journal and just see where God takes me, because my journaling is, the only thing that really would probably bring life. I mean, I can put things together like I used to, the fill in the blanks and all that kind of stuff, but that's not, I know they're all smiling and laughing because they know I'm good at that, and I could do that. But this is really more of a heart-to-heart kind of a weekend. And so just going to open up, in some areas where Scripture has meant something to me, and hopefully bring that to you all. But my, one of my final questions, I suppose I could say, is, what sort of expectations do you have for your future in the Lord, or in mentoring, or in your leadership, or wherever God plants you, bloom where you're planted, remember all that. But also, what are you hoping this rekindling, and even if it's just friendship and having fun, that may be, and that's fine if that's all it is. You don't have to come up with something really deep. But what kind of things are you anticipating, and where is there a little bit of stir and excitement in you? Well, don't everybody talk at
Okay,
once.
I'll hop
they're
out
excited.
here. So you asked me months ago about this, and the Lord said, absolutely yes. You didn't know I was about to retire. I did, but you didn't. And the Lord goes, this is something that you need to do. And I really came with open arms, and whatever I can do. I think I've told you that. What do you need? Whatever I can do. But I'm already stirred. Just sitting here talking about and remembering and hearing Jenn and, hearing about even in the hard times, Belinda, what we get to do in community. And I had mentioned to you that might be part of what I do in retirement, although retirement really isn't a in the word
Right.
at all. But next season, we'll say that, next season. Yeah. So what I'm expecting from this weekend is more of that stirring. And it really is going to be fun to see the faces I haven't seen in forever. I mean, Jen, we were trying to remember what last time I saw you. Belinda, I can't even remember.
I don't remember.
But you look so sweet and so familiar. And it feels real comforting,
Yeah.
So thank you for pulling us together. I'm looking forward to it.
Thank you. I know even those who were not able to come, there were some really sweet comments and texts. It's like, wedding anniversaries and baby, showers and lots of different things. So those that are able to come are coming, and it's just so great to hear from everybody. And again, being invited. So love that you're here.
Yeah, I think for me, it's been, I think, through the last year of the breast cancer, we moved to Savannah. There's been COVID, working from home all the time. There's just been so much, I think, disconnection for me, and maybe a lot of the rest of the world too, even, through COVID, still people trying to figure that out, working from home, and just really feel disconnected. And so that kind of group of women, that passion that we had, the people that can help grow and feed me, I don't really have that right now. I mean, other than you directly, but I'm just the community. And so I wrote down community when you said that, because it just really touched me. So for me, it's just that community. There's not been anything like it in my life since and ever, other than these people are here and they'll be here this weekend. So I'm excited.
I'm just selfish. It's time of refreshing. I always feel refreshed when I leave. And I think whenever you get together with a group of strong women that are believers, that iron sharpens iron. And I don't know, it feels great. It feels like a time of refreshing. That's what I kept thinking about. Just even as I drove here, I could kind of feel the stress a little bit leave, and like this is just for me to love on some people I haven't seen in a while and to be loved on.
Oh, I love
Isn't
that.
that deep?
That's it. No, that's exactly.
That's beautiful.
That's what I said. I mean, that's exactly what I was hoping for. And we got a lot going on this weekend. We're going to do some line dancing. We're going to do some stretching in the morning. We've got a bunch of fun stuff around the fire pit, hopefully, and lots of food and lots of fellowship and just laughter that girls do when they get together. So girls just want to have fun.
Yep.
And I'm super excited. Thank you, Jenn, for being here. Thank you, Belinda, for driving all the way from Alabama. And thank you, Theta, for your support always. And I love you, your family, all of you. And I'm just so grateful that you've been a part of my life all these years and that we're just getting started. Who knows what he's up to? I don't know. I'm just trying to obey, and I'm grateful that you guys are on the journey with me.
Thanks, Steph.
Thank you.
All right. Well, you've been listening to Work Well with Stephanie Wolfe and Jenn Sexton, as well as Belinda Hiti and Theta Shank. We're excited that you've been with us. This segment has been brought to you by the Whole Food Health Coach, where we make your goals our goals, and you're never alone on your wellness journey. And as always, for information about the Whole Food Health Coach, our corporate programs, virtual classes, or individual coaching, or mentoring women, if you're interested in doing something for your own church or your own group, it's now all digital and downloadable, so it's available for all churches everywhere. And our coaching is available virtually anywhere in the country. I'm Stephanie Wolfe, wishing you well personally and professionally. See you next time, live or on your favorite podcast channel. Until then, choose life.